Welcome to Lose the Veil. My name is Leslie Brown, and I'm your host for this podcast. And I'm here with a panel of amazing women. That's Stephanie, Brianda, Jean, and Bonnie. And together, we take you on a journey to explore and cultivate a deeper connection to our divinity. This is podcast number 4 in our journey of discovery about the divine feminine. Today, we are going to turn it over to Bonnie. She has a presentation for us utilizing Judaism. With no further ado, here's Bonnie.
Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Great. All right. Yes, we are going to talk about the Shekhinah. And you are correct. It is a Jewish word. And I just want to be clear with everyone listening that I am not Jewish. I actually called some of my friends who are and loved actually hearing what they experienced or felt this was. So this is a whole learning experience for all of us. Let me introduce myself a little bit. So I am, by training, a New York licensed esthetician, and I'm currently in a master's program for Oriental medicine and acupuncture and herbs. One of the things I love is demystifying skincare, and I'm fascinated by the human body. So that said, let's get back to the Shekhinah. According to the Torah, the definition actually of this word is a dwelling place, a settling, according to the Jewish dictionary. And it's also referred to as the essence of God, the majestic presence or manifestation of God. And in the Torah, what they say is you can feel the presence of God's Shekhinah. And when someone passes away, for example, at some point, you may hear someone say, you could feel that person's Shekhinah. And in another verse in the Torah, and this may be even a bit threatening, it says, God withdrew his Shekhinah. And so when Moses received the Torah, he was surrounded by the Shekhinah, which means a mitzvah that comes directly from God. And the Shekhinah teaches that God's presence is actually in the world. Therefore, believers may come across it at any time. Now, regarding the Hebrew meaning dwelling and settling, we may consider that this presence of God actually inhabits or dwells or settles, perhaps, in us spiritually. So the Shekhinah is held by many to represent actually feminine attributes of the presence of God. And I more so saw that in a writing that was done. It's an article, and it's somewhat actually kind of related to the Kabbalah. There are many resources online, but for sure, the Shekhinah in the Kabbalah is explicitly referring to the divine feminine and this feminine aspect of God, and God as a mother and a nurturer, a protector, a compassionate one. So as this kind of connection between femininity sort of emerges, I guess maybe in Jewish mystical literature, the concept is embraced by many. I don't really have a lot of knowledge to speak more about this, but some people, there's Jewish feminists who are out there, right? And they're very interested in speaking about this feminine aspect of God and the Shekhinah being a feminine aspect. So I now am going to put this out there to us. We have had a lot of juicy conversations up to this point. So do you see a relationship between the Shekhinah and the Kundalini?
Well, again, if the Shekinah or the Shekinah can be looked at as the same energy that the Kundalini brings, the same precepts that the aspect of the divine feminine brings when we listen to Soli talk, and the Kundalini and the Shakti all have this same kind of active principle, this all kind of nurturing place, this resting place. So, could we really look at the fact that there has always been a feminine aspect of God that in the Western culture we really don't hear about?
Mm-hmm.
And Leslie, I want to acknowledge something that you said because it's really great. So there are different ways of saying this word. So when you said Shekinah,
Mm-hmm.
people say it this way as well. So Shekinah, Shekhinah,
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, thinking about the resting dwelling, it reminds me of the Kundalini because it's the Kundalini coiled at our base, just
That's right.
dwelling there. So that parallel is what immediately stuck out in my head.
That's a great one. That's really a really good one.
I actually love what you said because now I am present to that for some people, this Shekinah is something that is like has been dormant. It's like she who we do not speak of. So in the same way of the Kundalini being coiled and perhaps even sometimes maybe this kind of dormant sense to it, some people feel like because it is relating to women and women in this Jewish conversation, that women being recognized has been dormant or they've been in exile in some way. And now we're kind of like bringing it up.
And that's really good too. The raising of the divine feminine.
Right.
The raising of, I want to say, the divine feminine in every aspect. Yeah.
Well, this conversation is for us to be brutally honest. So is there something else that you wanted to say? If
I think there was something else, but I thank you for...
No, not at this moment. I'm good.
Well, and I feel, because in us actually looking into this, that there is like a part of me, there's a little girl in me that I'm now reconnecting with, and it's almost like I'm raising her again in this new view.
You know, it is beautiful. I'm overwhelmed just listening to that because it puts me in touch with that energy inside of me that is trying to raise up. So when you say that, I feel Kundalini, I feel Holy Spirit, I feel all that really deep inside my being. So that's pretty cool.
There's one thing that struck me as I was looking, and as we have been having these conversations, this characteristic of compassion, of justice, of love. Like when you think of the picture, there's all these like statues, right, of the scales of justice. And she's a woman.
And liberty is a woman. Yeah, who else is a woman? I mean, from those, from those
Justice
aspects.
Is a woman, liberty is a woman. Even in ancient Ma'at is
Ma'at is a woman.
Is a woman, and
that's
also stands for justice.
And the balancing of the scales.
The balance, exactly.
So I'm going to be so bold to say that there's something about the universe entrusting balance to
and love,
this feminine aspect, right?
Say from your chest.
Right? Only right now, it doesn't look that way, right? Because when you go into these places and positions of justice and so on, who's there? Is it the feminine aspect?
Right.
It could be, right? It could be. Just because it has a penis doesn't mean there's not a feminine aspect.
Definitely. I mean, right, the feminine aspect, the divine feminine is in all living beings. And what we've been shown is that it's dormant
in all human beings,
right,
mostly.
in many of the beings that are in government.
but the other part too. Now, what's really crazy is the other part too, that there are aspects of the divine feminine even within the woman that is dormant.
That's why I didn't make the
Because they've been
distinction.
trying to be men.
Yeah.
Right, because we had to go out and have jobs like men. We had to do all these things like men. So again, it's not gender specific.
Exactly.
It's really polar. It's like the yin and the yang, the negative and the positive, if you want to look at it that way from a polarity point of view. So we've been so yang that we have to now come back to the middle or to the other side, to the yin, to integrate both parts of those into who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's the job.
What a gift. What a gift to be a being, to experience both that masculine, feminine, whatever you want to call it, because it doesn't look some kind of way. And what a gift for me, anyway, to revisit. I appreciate what you said about going out and having to be men, because there was something that happened that some aspects of the feminine thought or came up with or got cultivated or got indoctrinated to believe that they had to leave that thing behind in order to be successful, when it was the very thing that actually brought balance and harmony and all of that to spaces.
Yeah. And you think about it too, women, if we think about comfort and we think about love and we think about heart attacks, and women suffer heart attacks. Women have a lot of heart attacks. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean? Where did they shut that down? Why isn't it open? Why are we, and men too.
Yeah.
But that's the same energy. So we've all, on some level, have minimized this nurturing quality of the divine feminine.
Mm-hmm. Also, heart attack, breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
That's also imbalance in our divine feminine, major. And it's the putting everyone else before yourself, which is that's the MO of so many women, right?
Yeah.
That also, we come last, that you yourself come last.
That's so true. And also the fibroids. Women and fibroids, that's about creativity. Mm-hmm. In the biggest sense.
And also a trust thing too. I feel like.
Yeah. We are stifled in how we create or what we create. We can only create babies, but we can create so much more. Mm-hmm. And yet there's not the opportunity, because we're working and because we're giving ourselves over to our kids and because we're doing so much stuff. So that little extra creative part of us gets stifled. Mm-hmm. And that's part of this womb energy. What can I create? What can I build? What can I foster? What can I give love to? Just your two babies. Nothing else. So we lose a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's so crazy to me.
What's crazy?
That's my high level intellectual word. Crazy. that is the time of being pregnant, of actually carrying a child, and that is because it's such a small aspect of your life, but it is perhaps one of those high level moments of being a creator. But this, I mean, you're creating all the time.
All the time.
All the
Whether
time.
you're conscious of it or not.
Oh my gosh.
But
creating from nothing. Making $10 last for a meal for a family. This is creativity.
But is it creativity in a way that allows the woman to really express herself in a way that feels good to her?
And trust the process.
Right. But most women, we create because we don't have a choice to create. We don't necessarily create out of this joyful space. You know what I mean? It doesn't come from that. It's like we don't dance.
Right.
I remember this one woman said, it's a poor culture when the women can't dance, when the women don't go and dance, because it's a part of their ability to create. Yeah, and we don't. I mean, some of us do, but not in huge, big senses. No, in some cultures, that's part of every celebration. That's part of every banging the feet and moving the hips. We stuck at desks, and we got to run on concrete if you want to do those things.
Yeah, American culture. Obviously because there's so many different.
I would say Western culture.
Right. Yeah. That's
excuse me.
Yeah, that's more inclusive. But there's a lot of different backgrounds within
America.
Western culture. But there's certain things that get lost, right? That have gotten lost. So there's some people, some families, some cultures that have kept those traditions alive, and then there's some that haven't. But really the ones that I'm looking at are the children. The children, a lot of them don't get taught that across the board, because I work with children and I have Africans and I have Mexicans and I have Dominicans and I have Black Americans, and across the board it's like, it's just looking at dance as an example. Some of them love it, but a lot of them, like, it's not like a regular thing for them. When I talk about it, like, oh, dance, whatever, like, oh no, that's not me. And so it's one thing if, okay, you don't feel comfortable, maybe you feel like you need to freshen up on your moves, but it's another if it's not even something that's done at home, right? Something that when you're just hanging out with your family, it's not even something that you do. Then I feel like, oh, that makes me sad,
Yeah.
Growing up, I had cousins who weren't that great at dancing, and then I had cousins that were. I would be one of the cousins that would put myself in that category, and I teach my other cousin, like, you got to do it like this, you got to pop it like that. But whether or not we were all dancing, regardless of how we, how good we were, quote unquote, we were all doing it because that's what our family did. But I feel like with the newer generations coming up, I feel like you find less and less of them like doing it just to do it, right? If it's not for the purpose of a TikTok, then they're not really doing it, and that's an expression of our joy. That's an ultimate expression,
Yes.
One of the many. And another thing I was gonna say about it was something that you were saying before.
Well,
about things, it'll come back.
It'll come to you. While I want to add on to what you're saying about dance, because given the sedentary kind of culture, there is like perhaps this lack of movement period that we want to be on the lookout for in these kids. And let's interrupt that.
Yeah.
And especially now being in the place that we are with this virus that makes everything even more sedentary.
Right.
That people are spending hours and hours sitting in front of a computer doing Zoom and podcasts like we're doing, but
podcasts a little different.
Well, that's true, but the Zoom, but the idea,
stand and Zoom, people. There's ways to do it.
Have parties on Zoom. And get up and dance with your parties on Zoom.
There's dance parties on Zoom.
Oh, I've had parties on Zoom. Didn't we have a party on Zoom?
We did.
Good.
Oh, I remember now. So, it was just that how you were saying that there's, generations of essentially suppressed and repressed especially women,
Mhm.
right? But I would say both men and women, because it's like men, weren't taught that this is something that's in them to begin with. I don't know if that's oppression or if that's just like an ignorance that wasn't something that was instilled in them. Like, you too, not just the girls, right? But I feel like, now I feel like we're all in the same place. It doesn't matter what age you are, specifically with the women, we're all learning this now.
Mhm.
We're all learning how to tap in now into our womb space, into our hearts. We're learning it now because we realize, like, we've been, smushed under for so long, and it's like across the board, across the world now, a lot of women are waking up to their power and to trusting their bodies and their ability to create, not just babies.
Probably the time for it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is.
So it's something that we're all learning.
Mhm.
Beautiful. I'm excited. The world is
I was-
not flat anymore. Maybe it's round. Maybe
I
it's
was
round.
thinking about that little girl who came from one of those Scandinavian countries, and she spoke at the UN
Mhm.
about climate change. I mean, just think about how young she is and how she was doing what she was doing to bring attention. I mean, I think the kids are really got it going on.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing about the kids. I feel like where I feel like they need more nurturing, that's really on us, right?
Mhm.
Like on the older generations, because that's something that we're, like,
Responsible for.
right,
in
responsible
some way.
for. But as far as them on their own, they definitely have a different hardware that we need right now. Like, just like the way, just out the gate, like out the womb, they
Oh.
think differently, they view things differently without us having to tell them anything. It's just a fresh perspective that they have and a fresh take on how to navigate. Whereas that, that's the whole point, right? Because they're going to teach us. They're the ones that are really going to build the new world, right? So
They came here equipped to do that.
we just have to make sure that we nurture that, right?
Get the hell out the way.
And right, exactly.
So they can do
Nurture,
their thing.
encourage, and get out of their way. Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
I just want to say thank you so much for hanging out with us. And as I said, we have one more coming up in this series, and then we're going to start our new series with our God, sex, and the Kundalini. You're going to follow us with that one too. Okay, night. Say night, everybody.
Good night.
Morning.